Okay, everybody, we're gonna now do the fall calculation. I'm doing a video for the WFED106 program at the Carpenters International Training Center provided by Penn State University. This is WFED106, question number 6. What we're gonna talk about is how to perform a fall calculation, okay? So, what happens in a fall? When we're tied off in fall arrest, there's two major portions to your total fall distance. Your total fall distance is made up of free fall and the fall arrest distance. Okay, so what are these two parts here? Let's talk about free fall. In free fall, there's a calculation we use to figure out how much we weigh depending about how far we fall. So, I start off at 200 pounds, that's what I weigh. If I drop 1 foot, that number doubles. If I free fall a second foot, this number doubles. A third foot, that number doubles. It gets heavier and heavier almost exponentially. A fourth foot, that doubles. A fifth foot, another doubling. At this point, I want to point out to you that manufacturers state we should limit our free fall to 5 feet because we start to exceed the load limitations of the equipment. If I fall an additional 6 foot, I weigh 12,000 pounds. If I fall a 7 foot, I weigh around 25,000 pounds. So on and so on until you hit terminal velocity where you weigh like a dump truck loaded with dirt. You are unbelievably heavy. We need to limit free fall to 5 feet or less. To start with, manufacturer's instructions, we always follow manufacturer's instructions. So, free fall needs to be kept less than 5 feet. The fall arrest distance, depending on the system you're using, can be made up as many as 3 major parts. Fall arrest distance can be made up of, and this one's a constant, harness stretch. Harness stretch, and we're always going to call this 2 feet. Okay? What happens is your D-ring at the end of a fall, which started here, usually ends up a couple of feet above the original position. Harness stretch, it's a constant in your calculation. You always put it in because you're always tied off to an A-class harness with a D-ring back here. The next part is possibly lifeline stretch. If you are tied off to a lifeline at all, you may not be. You may be tied off to an anchor point on a scissor lift. If you're tied off to a lifeline, it will stretch in a fall. Now, the tags on a lifeline have some very important information about this, okay? As an example, a tag may state something like elongation of 5% at 1,600 pounds of load. What that means is your rope will stretch 5% with every 1,600 pounds of load you put on that rope. So as an example, that's important information. Your lifeline will stretch. It will add distance to your total fall. And then finally, the last major portion of your fall arrest distance is your shock absorber deploying. The question there is, as we just discussed a little bit earlier, what shock absorber, what lanyard are you wearing? What class? Remember, you could be wearing the E4 or the E6. Elongation of 4 feet, shock absorber. Elongation of 6 feet, shock absorber. When will it deploy? The max arrest force on the tag tells you at what load your shock absorber will deploy. For an E4, typically, it's 900 pounds. For an E6, the max arrest force is typically 1,300 pounds. Based on your free fall, will this deploy? So, your calculation can be varied. All right, so we've got, now these are the major parts. Now some other things that happen is the straps on your harness stretch a little, the straps on the lanyard stretch a little, but we're talking fractions of inches here. Nothing really to really get a twist over, okay? Let's do an example here. Right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set up a work surface that is 10 feet high. And we know, after we've read the regulations, that if at any time I could fall 10 feet, I need to be protected. Okay. So here I am. My foreman has asked me to put a guardrail up here because it's a work surface, and we know if there's a fall of 8 feet or more, we need to put up a guardrail. So that's my job right now. Above me is a girder with a sliding I-beam anchor on it, and that's what I'm anchored off to. I have a lifeline coming down, reaching either the ground or the level where I can be rescued as per the regulations. A key point here is that because of the new CSA regulations as of this January, you must be using a 2-foot lanyard on this vertical lifeline. So that's what I have. Now what I want to sort of highlight here is that my 2-foot lanyard, think of it like this. It's attached to my D-ring, and it's literally going straight down attached to my lifeline. So the rope grab is 2 feet below my D-ring right now in this scenario. Another key point is that from here to there is 20 feet. This is going to be calculated with lifeline stretch. From my rope grab to my anchor point is the live active line, and that's the part that can stretch. The rest of this is just dead line, no stretch. Okay? All right, so let's go through the fall. Let me start by asking you, what calculation for free fall would you put in this scenario where my D-ring is here, my rope grab is 2 feet below, and I fall? How much free fall would I experience?
At least 4 feet.
4 feet is absolutely correct. In this fall, my D-ring goes the 2 feet to even up with the rope grab, and then I must fall the additional 2 feet for now my system to realize I'm falling. This is the fall arrest distance portion, when the system begins to arrest your fall. So in this calculation now, let's put down that we have 4 feet of free fall. To that, I now start adding in the fall arrest portion. Harness stretch is a constant, and I'm always going to call it 2 feet. We saw that on the video we watched earlier. The next one is lifeline stretch. Since I am tied off to a lifeline, I am going to calculate this. The tag on my lifeline says elongation of 5% at 1,600 pounds of load. When I come back to how much am I weighing, at 4 feet of free fall, I weigh 3,200 pounds, which is double 1,600 pounds. So the rules state we're not allowed to exceed 10% stretch of a lifeline, but I've met it. So for this scenario, I'm going to go with it. I have 10% of stretch on my lifeline. So if I have 20 feet of lifeline between these 2 points, and it stretches 10%, what can I put for lifeline stretch? 2 feet, correct, thank you. All right, so I now have 2 feet of harness stretch, which is a constant, and 2 feet of lifeline stretch, which is because I'm on a lifeline. Finally, shock absorber deployment. I'm wearing in this scenario an E4 lanyard with a max arrest force of 900 pounds. And I've already seen that I'm going to weigh 3,200 pounds. My shock absorber will deploy. It's an E4, it's going to elongate 4 feet. In total, 4, 6, and 6, 12 feet of total fall distance on a 10-foot ledge. Are we happy?
No.
No, we're not. Not only do I need to get below 10 feet, but I should get at least 20-30% below it, 2 to 3 feet of safety factor. Okay? So what is the first and best thing I can do in this scenario, the way it's set up, to change these numbers? Yeah, so if I were to take that rope grab that's down this low and go up 1, 2, 3 feet, what am I going to use now for free fall?
1 foot.
1 foot. If I take this rope grab and come up there, I'm now just gonna have the 1 foot free fall. Okay?
Thank you.
So, let's carry on with this. If I free fall 1 foot, is harness stretch, does that go in here? Always.
Yeah.
Harness stretch is a constant. Your D-ring will always start here before you fall, and at the end of the fall be 2 feet above. Okay? Always constant. 2 feet of harness stretch. Now, lifeline stretch. If I free fall 1 foot like we've stated, and I weigh 400 pounds, and it takes 1,600 pounds of load to stretch at 5%, well, 400 is 1/4 of this. So 1/4 of 5% is 1.25. And I've also raised it up 3 feet, so now you've only got 17 feet here. So, not to get all twisted up with the math, but we're talking inches now. It's less than 6 inches, so let's just call it 1/2 a foot. We're gonna say we're gonna experience 1/2 foot of lifeline stretch. Now, at a free fall of 1 foot and I weigh 400 pounds, on my E4 lanyard, it takes 900 pounds to operate the shock absorber. So at 400 pounds, it is not gonna deploy. I do not add anything for shock absorber deployment. So, I now have 3 1/2 feet of total fall distance. And all I did, folks, was I relieved 3 feet of slack, I lifted up my rope grab, I took away 3 feet of free fall, and I went from a 12-foot total fall distance to 3.5 feet. So if I fell off this, as an example, this looks like about 3.5 feet, and here's my rescue plan. Right? I basically went up to here and a total fall off this ledge. That's it. Okay? So, reducing free fall is the key always. All right? Now, a couple other things I want to point out here about this is that, we did it. I think pretty good. Is any questions? Any questions about this?
Do different ropes have different stretch factors?
They may, in fact, based on manufacturers. Now, they have minimum requirements to reach, right, based on CSA requirements. But different ropes, yes, could have different stretch factors. Like, for instance, the ropes we have out on the floor, they state 3% stretch at 1,800 pounds of load. I use these numbers for ease of calculation, right? But it can take far more load and stretch less, the ropes that we have out there. Okay? It's a good question. Any other questions? Okay, well that has been WFED for the 106 CIT. Thank you very much.